right back at it again.
Very nice Floridian accent, Ben. Good job.
You're
love
welcome. Sorry, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
guys.
You're most welcome. Anyway,
No,
it's, that's
fun.
true.
That was fun.
That is a great tune, and you know what? That whole that album in general. This is for me. I know Jacopo was disappointed with what separates me from you, but this was the one where it disappointed me. To be honest, this was the one where I had such high expectations, like even more so now after Homesick, and then what separates from me to you, and then you know, City of Akala and Right Back at It Again. They're for me the two best tracks on the album, I would say. Sometimes You're the Hammer, Sometimes You're the Nail, and Life Lessons Learned the Hard Way are good tracks, and Violence is a good track too. But realistically, I thought it was a bit meh.
Do you know what? With Violence, I thought it was going to be a Blink-182 cover of the song off their Untitled album. So when I saw the track listing before it came out, I was like, yeah, this would be wicked. This is going to be absolutely sick. And it wasn't, and I was disappointed. But I don't know why I thought that. But I guess they are known for covering they covered Kelly Clarkson, didn't they? So
yeah, Kelly Clarkson's not really Blink-182, is it?
No, what? They're exactly the same. What are you about?
I mean, fair enough. I mean, Kelly kind of, no offense to her or Tom, but I was comparing the two.
Sure, they're both listening and they're seething, Jacopo.
No, I'm more worried about some angry fan than that. Leave Brittany alone!
Leave Kelly alone!
No one over the age of under the age of 20 will know this, but that was
so good.
A proper OG YouTube meme.
One of the first viral videos, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Was it MySpace?
I think it was
YouTube. I think
it was YouTube.
Yeah, but I remember people sharing it on MySpace.
No, but guys, I think actually going back to the album, I agree with Mike. It is, a little bit underwhelming, not their best work. But I think there are some good tunes on there, like Right Back at It Again, Sometimes You're the Hammer, Sometimes You're the Nail. I think they're fun songs. This comes at a time when I didn't really listen to A Day to Remember anymore. Again, from what separates me from you, but I guess also personally, my tastes and my style that I was into changed a little bit. But again, revisiting it after years, I think it's not that bad. It's a much more easy listening experience, I think, than others.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Generic, I guess, and poppy, like pop punky, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a going home album for them, I think. It's like after we've done this whole roundabout, let's just go back to Florida. So there's like the City of Ocala song. It's like they're trying to go back home a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I kind of really sort of resonated with what you were saying about at the time when this album came out, which was in 2013, that was a time when I was listening to completely different music. I was in my second year at uni. So, I was sort of being influenced by the music tastes of those around me more than listening to the music I listened to prior to university, if you know what I mean. And by that, what I mean is it was more, there was a lot of people listening to DJ shite or whatever, but a lot of it was more like stuff like Blackstone Cherry or Skin Dread or, kind of like more experimental metal and rock, I guess. Blackstone Cherry's not experimental in the slightest, but that was just another example. But yeah, stuff like that. So it's interesting. I agree with what you're saying, yeah.
It's interesting with what you're saying as well, with the kinds of things that were going on at the time, because I had my kind of rap phase at the time, listening to Tyler, the Creator, listening to Kanye a lot, and I'm trying to get Mike into rap, basically, because I think there's some very quality stuff and very high quality stuff there that I think deserves a listen. And The names that I said before are some that I believe are quite good, but obviously they're not the only ones, and they're already a few years old now. So I need to
Jacopo, on that note though, I think one of my friends actually introduced me to a bit of Stormzy and a bit of some grime. And you know what? Like, I am the whitest, like, well spoken from the southwest of England. Imagine me listening to grime.
Mate, you couldn't have sounded
listening
less
to grime
like into grime.
No, genuinely. The
Someone's
reason
played
why
a
I
bit
like
of the Stormzy's and the old grime music coming out of London, and
oh god, no. The reason why I like it so much.
the verdant hills of Wiltshire. Can we just appreciate the hills of Cyprus?
Wait, no, listen up.
went under the radar.
Yes, exactly. Like, we need to highlight the hills of Cyprus, please.
I genuinely like grime music because of the energy. And that's the biggest reason. The energy and the passion, those two things put together, any genre, for me, those two things, like whether it's folk or whether it's anything that has that, almost not speed, but power, I would say, really, really resonates with me. And I love that stuff. And I love anything like that. And that's why I would say, going back to the acoustic stuff and going back to the Nick Cave, for example, it's not my style because I can't get into anything that's not very energetic and not very not powerful in that sense. And I think it is powerful in a different way. I'm sure it is, but I find I struggle. But that's why I'm saying, going back to grime, I like it because of that, to be honest. And I remember listening to one of the Stormzy albums. I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. I like it.
I like that you're branching out.
Thanks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm only got my toes a little bit wet.
When he says he's listening to grime music, he means he's listening to Hacktivist, which is that metal band with a grime MC. That's as far as it goes. Yeah, or Skinhead or whatever. That's the reggae metal in it. But yeah, I mean, I used to quite like grime, but I think it's had its time a little bit.
Yeah.
But grime nowadays isn't grime. Grime nowadays is like UK hip hop, or sometimes like Stormzy's almost gone down like a gospel route.
Yeah.
Like grime in itself is like H, for example. He's born from grime. He grew up listening to grime. He's influenced by grime, but it's not grime at all. And drill is another one that's coming out now, which is probably the nearest thing to grime, which is like your 6/7s and stuff like that.
It's funny though, because I think music in general, I think putting a label on things is very difficult now. You can't really put a label on it. I would say it's just people share music, and if it hits off and people like it, they share it with other people, and then it kind of mutates, doesn't it? It mutates and mutates.
Our obsession with genres and sort of classifying things, I guess, comes a little bit from the past when there weren't maybe as many genres as well. Because now, basically, every time even just metal, every time a new metal band comes out and puts out a new album, it's a different genre.
Yeah.
Not every time, but it seems like it every now and then, where it's like, oh yeah, it kind of sounds like that, but then they have this other element, so you end up having industrial black neocore or whatever. I'm just making stuff up.
What does that mean?
Well, bombastic emo pop, post-hardcore, and thick chunky rock indie, or whatever it was.
Exactly, that one. But that's what I mean. So it's like Mike was saying, it's a bit pointless, I think, to label things now.
But I think
it would be useful to say something is rock, something is pop, sometimes something is reggae, whatever, just because it helps to categorize it for people.
Well, I think we as humans like to put things in boxes, and we try to make things tidy for ourselves to understand things, right? And I think when we look at a band and we don't know what band it is, and we look at them and it's someone describes them as rock, we can automatically almost prejudge. And I think that's because there is so much music out there and there is so much information. It is information in that sense, data and information. We kind of need genres to kind of help us only sift through the sort of styles we like to hear. But realistically, there are some bands that are on the new music playlist that I put on there that I would find them very difficult to describe as rock or very difficult to describe as metal, because they have such a fusion with other genres. And I don't think, I think rock as a vague term now is a good sense. It's just
But
rock.
that's what I'm saying. It's just to categorize it and kind of tell you what direction it's going, so you can say, "Oh yeah, I might like that." But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago as well with indie, that I go on these indie playlists on Spotify, and I don't recognize it as indie, which I'm sure I'm too old to understand what new indie is, but I'm used to something else being indie. And it's weird, but I guess it's kind of, the terms are fluid and it changes and new music comes out, and I guess people are also allowed to self-categorize with things. I was reading about Idols, which is a great band that I'd love to cover at one point here as well. But yeah, Idols say, look, we have nothing to do with punk. We're not a punk band. We may have elements, but we're not punk. So it doesn't matter if you guys say we're punk, because we're not.
Yeah,
So I
fair
found it
enough.
interesting, because it doesn't actually matter what the critics say. We're here commenting on stuff, but it doesn't actually matter to the band. Well, it matters in the sense of course, marketing and getting good reviews and things of that sort. But it
Yeah.
doesn't change the music, and it doesn't change what the band is doing. And if the band believes in it, whether we give it a good rating or not, it's their prerogative, I think, at a certain point.
For sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree. 100%.
I'm going to move this along, and I want to talk about Bad Vibrations, the album of A Day to Remember in 2016. And for me, I had a gap of listening to metal music between the age of between 2014 and 2016. I had 2 years where I listened to it, but I wasn't actively looking for new music. I wasn't actively going to gigs. I wasn't actively, being involved in the community as such. But then this album came out. Yeah, the Neck Deep album, Life's Not Out to Get You, that came out in 2015. I remember listening to that in probably like January 2016, and that, as well as A Day to Remember's album Bad Vibrations, when this came out, I remember listening to both albums, and that really got me back into pop punk, listening to new pop punk and listening to this sort of a new genre, because Neck Deep, to be honest, actually did a really, really good job at actually breaking the scene and becoming the leaders of the pop punk scene in 2015, 2016. And they're British as well, which is amazing, which I absolutely love. They may not sound it, but they definitely are British. But yeah, moving on. The track I suggested to the guys to put on the playlist would be Reassemble, only because it's very, very specific, as it's new to A Day to Remember. It's a new kind of style, and I quite liked that direction that they were going in. But yeah, let's take a listen.